Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Flux Motorsport TV, and you're joining us for round 7 of the GT3 Championship. Things are really starting to hot up in this championship as it draws to a close in 2020. It will be the final season of 2020, and we're here at Road America to witness what is going to be a fantastic race. My name's Murphy. I'm also joined in the box with the console this evening, as we have been all through the season. Good evening, the console. How are you?
Evening, Murph. How are we? Ready for another evening of it?
Indeed, yeah. Certainly ready for this one around Road America. It's been a bit of a mixture of circuits as we've gone around this American tour. I think this one's going to play into the hands of most drivers actually out there. Very tricky circuit to get right. Probably, arguably the most challenging circuit in North America, for me anyway. And it's going to be a real test for all of the drivers out there, even the ones that are at the top of the game.
Very true, Murph. I've heard this track described as America's answer to Spa, so there's a little bit of everything in this track, from just outright pace to the sort of windy section of that big long carousel. So interesting to see who's going to set the car up for what. Are people going to go for the low downforce dragline speed or stay for a high downforce package? Time will tell, but everyone moving at quite a pace. There's not a lot between everyone.
We've got rumours from the paddock, from practice sessions, and we've just seen a very held back, I'd say, free practice just before this qualification session began. But we have got rumours of 207s, I believe it is, and in and around that, and that is race trim. So we might see a little dip into the 206s, maybe even pushing 205s when it comes down to that full qualification trim. We're also tracking round a reserve driver brought in for tonight's race with Mick Toasty. We have another reserve driver on track as well, currently sat in the pit lane, and that is with Ice Dexo, opting for the Aston Martin. A brave choice in the number 65, but a great looking car. So wait and see how he gets on once he gets out of the pits. But let's have a little bit of a focus to our current GT3 standings. For those of you that haven't already spotted it on the social media accounts, let's have a quick run through. So Blank File continues to reign supreme within the GT3's current position of first on 198 points, and then the man who's just been spinning out with Bruce Law, 19 points behind his Belgium curb clippers compatriot, with 179 points in second place. Dr. Potford looks as though he's now eking out of reach to actually take the championship, but still in a strong position in third place, 54 points behind Blank File at the moment in third. Immortalis has then got a sizable gap to Dr. Potford in fourth position on 100 points, with Snarling Bongo and Fast AF Gamer and Luke 42, Luke Snipes, also breathing down the neck. Those drivers on 98, 96 and 90 points respectively, with Linga Bazinga as well, only 3 points behind Luke Snipes in 8th position. We've then got TTV Giacomo in 9th, with Survivor in 10th, Green Gaming in 11th, Old Smoky in 12th, and then Hellectric in 13th place at the moment, who will not be featuring in tonight's race. 4 minutes and 10 seconds gone in the qualification session so far. No drivers yet to set a lap, so it's been a very slow start to this one. We are currently tracking Bruce Law out on an outlap, but let's have a look over to the current championship leader, who looks as though he's flying at the moment in that Pirelli Z4. It is, of course, the Belgian Blank File at the moment, making his way through a bit of qualification traffic. That's Green Gaming that he's just passed. And I think it's also Mick Toasty that he's on the chase with as well in that McLaren.
And this could help Blank File if he gets a nice little toe up this back straight here off that McLaren. He probably won't be too unhappy with that.
Just about to start a fresh lap. Let's jump on board with him actually, and let's have a look at how this one pans out. Is the current championship leader, is possibly the favourite for this one if the rumours are to be true. He is the driver that's setting a 207 in race trim. We also saw a little bit of sneaky action going on, though, didn't we, in the practice from Bruce Law. Looked as though he must have been on a hot lap, because we saw him braking right at the end of the session, just before the start-finish line, keeping that time well hidden. So we'll have to wait and see what Bruce Law can produce within this one. But Fast AF Gamer is currently in pole position. He's moved up into first with a 208.110, and oh, it's gone all wrong there for Blankfile. Looked as though it was innocuous as well, all from nothing. Didn't see any contact, or couldn't hear any contact.
So that's turn 5, and I reckon we're going to see a few people go out there. It's you're coming at it flat out, and you're braking sort of downhill towards the apex, but the curbs on the outside are nasty, which is what took Blankfile for a little while here. As you can see, Fast AF having a go at it.
I don't know if that was maybe a little bit of lag that
got
came
away
through
with it,
then,
maybe, but this is these two corners here are super tricky. You have to be so careful on the entry to turn 5 and then the entry to turn 6 as well.
Yeah, that tabletop, the left-hand tabletop, is especially challenging. You can't actually see the apex, so you've just got to sort of use the force with it, haven't you? And to be fair, this one as well, we're just approaching up the carousel. It looks really simple. It looks as though it's a slightly sort of off camber, not too much of a decline, sweeping right-hander, which it is, but to actually get your line, and realistically it needs to be full throttle if you're going to be going at full race pace all the way through that. All of your speed needs to be taken off beforehand, and if you make any sort of mistakes and have to counter steer or get on the brakes midway through that, you're going to lose heaps and heaps of time, and it can be such an easy passing point should somebody make a mistake. 12 minutes and 38 seconds now remaining in the penultimate race within the GT3 Championship. This gives us a bit of a run through about what you've got to look forward to as we enter our final week here within Flux Motorsport's second season. Look ahead to the touring cars. This is one that you're definitely not going to want to miss, and something that I know you've been very excited for, Alex, with the Touring Car Championship heading over to Mount Panorama in Bathurst. Going to be a fantastic race, that, and you can join me live on the YouTube channel from 8 o'clock PM UK time for all of the action on track there. And just whilst I can take a breath in between that, Bruce Law has since stepped up into second place. He's 6/10 away from the pace of Fast AF at the moment. Let's focus in on him as we continue to run through the current week scheduling. The GT1 event will take place on Thursday. The previous races of Sonoma and Sakito have since been uploaded, I believe. Or it might be actually, I beg your pardon, it was Watkins Glen and Sonoma. Have now been uploaded onto the YouTube channel, so you'll be able to check out those. But the final week of the GT1s also heads over to that Mount Panorama circuit. That's going to be an absolute cracker as well. Then the LMP2s close out the season around the Circuit de Catalunya in Spain. That's going to be a very cold race indeed at this time of the year around Spain. And then the GT3s in the final week. It could well be the decider depending on what happens in tonight's race. We'll be taking you over to Watkins Glen for that one a week today, starting live on the YouTube with myself and the console from 8 o'clock PM. Let's have a focus onto this race though. Fast AF still sat in pole position, Bruce Law in second, Snarling Bongo in third, with Blankfile currently in fourth position. Do expect that is going to change if the 207s are going to materialise. However, we did have a little word as the lobby was created tonight, and Blankfile was feeling super confident for this race, and we speak every week about the commentator's curse, but you know what, it's even worse when a driver says it. Yeah, most definitely. It's going to maybe have been the curse of his own demise, but we'll wait and see. I mean, the Belgians come onto the scene like a wrecking ball really this season, hasn't he? He's come in, really mixed everything up. Bruce Law will be ecstatic and devastated. That is his good friend from Curve Clippers who's joined in, because apart from Blankfile, Bruce Law has been pretty dominant throughout this championship. I mean, Blankfile has really messed up the running order. If we just bring up the current statistics and results from this season, we can see that Bruce Law has managed podiums, I think, through every single race so far. It's just his best finish was a first in Daytona, and that was his last first place. Beg your pardon, he did get first place at Sonoma as well, but other than that, it's just been third place finishes for the man from Chester. So he's going to try and look to prove himself as his fastest gamer. Fastaz has really struggled throughout all of this season, as we see the top three now into the pits for the final 9 minutes of the qualification session. Let's flip over to that noddy coloured BMW Z4, as Bruce Law refers to it lovingly, I'm sure. 1.6 seconds off the pace at the moment, and we can see there Immortalis is making headway up through, and Luke Snipes has just come in with a 209.674. That's going to be enough for 5th place, and looks as though Luke Snipes is finding plenty of pace within that Porsche 911 at the moment.
We've seen Luke's pace grow as the season's gone on. I bet you wish he had this sort of pace at the beginning of the season. He'd be able to make even more of a charge on that middle of the table where I believe he's currently sitting. So yeah, it was good to see the improvements come week by week, and that's a blinding lap.
Indeed, interesting at the moment. Dr. Potford currently in 16th place on the standings on your left hand side. Don't forget, Dr. Potford third in the championship at the moment, yet to set a lap, so this is going to be interesting, especially if he struggles to try and get a lap set in the remaining 8 minutes now of this qualification session. If you're watching us for the first time, a very warm welcome to the Flux Motorsport family. The way that we run things here, we've got 20 minutes of qualification. The weather has been set to what the weather is currently like at all of our track locations, and then you've got 45 minutes of on-track action to follow in a single race with accelerated tyre wear and performance impacting damage. Realistic driving aids have been enabled as well, so if the car's got it, you can use it. You can also feel free to turn it off if you think it's going to slow you down. However, wouldn't recommend it in these GT3s unless you're really confident. But Fastaz Gamer continues to reign supreme in this session. Nobody's been able to make headway on a 207.362 at the moment. 6/10 is the closest that you're going to get to an equal lap. Blankfile has since come in with a third place on that one. Still though, 6/10, almost 7 away from the pace of Fast AF Gamer. All drivers now out on track except for TGS Unbound, so we'll wait and see what the Dane can do here. Currently sat in 8th position, almost 3 seconds off the pace. Dr. Potford's just come in. That must be an outlap with a 234.3. Good enough for 15th at the moment, just ahead of Vice, but we'll have to wait and see how this materialises on the hot lap. And remember folks, as we approach the New Year's set of seasons, you can join in all of this action just by heading over to our website. It is www.fluxmotorsport.com, and we've got some pretty big news that's going to be coming your way in the next couple of weeks. Keep your eyes peeled on that, and to make sure that you don't miss any of the news and updates coming from this fantastic racing community, be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter or Instagram to make sure you get every update as it comes in. Also, if you don't want to miss any of the racing that we're going to be bringing to you over the next couple of weeks, and of course into the new year, then you can always hit the subscribe button within the YouTube channel and get a little notification whenever that comes on. 5 minutes now remaining inside the session. Nobody still able to challenge Fast AF Gamer's lap here in the BMW M6. Got number one for a reason, and she's really putting down a dominance here. It's just whether or not this can materialise into an actual finish, which we haven't seen from her all season long.
I've been avoiding saying anything, especially after last week where she showed great pace, but just couldn't hang on to it in the first couple of laps. So we're going to keep very quiet on this one this week, Murph.
Yeah.
And maybe she'll have a chance at getting finishing the season with a decent result.
It's going to be one where maybe we just best refer to car names. We'll just call it the BMW. Maybe even that's a little bit too much.
It's too close. Well, it could be blank file.
Really,
you'll get one of them. It's a 50-50.
For how many times we've ruined somebody's race this season just by mentioning the name. All drivers on grid and on track can't hear us. Yet it still seems to have that almost telekinetic effect.
We will find you.
Yeah, we will find you just from the mention of the name. So just loaded up my version of the YouTube channel at the moment. It's good to see some familiar faces there. Also good to see some new faces as well. Good evening, Riley. A good friend rooting for Green Gaming here. Green Gaming currently in 15th place in the Cadillac. The Cadillac probably not best suited to this circuit, to be fair, but we'll wait and see whether or not he's going to be able to pull something out of the bag. And we have got a little bit of movement. Looks as though eMotorsports is just making headway. Dr. Potford has since got himself up into 10th place, pushing TGS Unbound down, and TTV Giacomo currently struggling a little bit here today. But Fast AF Gamer still reigning in first place. Bruce Law has since cut that deficit by a couple of tenths. He's still almost 4 tenths away from that pole position lap of 2 minutes 7 seconds .362. Another good evening as well to Angie, rooting on for the KC drivers here with Blank File and Bruce Law representing our good friends at Curb Clippers. Nice to see you as ever watching and tuning in from South Africa.
What's also good to see is OGR is hanging on to that 6th spot, splitting Lingo and Immortalis. I think he drove as a reserve last week and got the full-time seat for the last 2 races this time. So this will be his first points finish. What a way to start.
So let's have a little focus onto that Simmons Mercedes of OGR. We actually saw a phenomenal qualification from OGR last week, and I'm almost surprised to see him a little bit off the pace at the moment, but I think that is still quite a good pace. The sort of 208, 209 region, it just shows the sort of talent that you've got at the top of this grid at the moment to be in the low 207s. Perhaps my prediction wasn't quite right with the 206s, perhaps 205s. I don't think the weather conditions are quite working out for that. It's certainly looking very quick with the Cat Guy potentially struggling as well with some of the corners. I mean, look at how battered that AMG is.
I think that'd be more down to car class. Me and Cat Guy have spent a couple of races around here in the Indy Cars series, and he knows this track like the back of his hand. He knows every crook and cranny, every tip and trick. So I think he'll definitely want to watch come the actual come the race. If he can keep himself clean and out of trouble in those first couple of laps that are carnage, I reckon he'll be able to shock a few people, I think.
I think that was the downfall last week around, what is such a tricky circuit, especially in these cars. I mean, you really are pretty evil for selecting that one in the GT3s. But this circuit maybe opens it up a little bit more because it is such a long circuit. These guys are going to be doing less laps out on track tonight. It also means that any mistakes are going to be amplified in their cost, really, if you do go off track, if you do have to make that pit stop, because you're going to have less laps in order to try and get that back. But it's going to be a very interesting first lap. Maybe not the first couple of corners. I mean, the braking down into turn 1 is pretty tricky, but it's more as you start to progress through that middle sector, the one that we mentioned before, as you go up the Moraine sweep into that blind left-hander tabletop, and that's when things can get real dicey if you're side-by-side racing with a full pack of 16 cars like we have in this GT3. But into the final 15 seconds now, Fast AF Gamer still out on track. Doesn't look as though she's going to be able to complete a lap here, or are we going to see the ability to cross over the line? Let's have a look. 5 seconds remaining, just over the line, so there's going to be one more lap, which could be crucial. Bruce Law, however, that session is done for Bruce. Blankfile still out on track, but Fast AF Gamer is currently sat in that top spot for pole position and the bonus point. Blankfile just getting a little bit leery there into turn 5, into turn 6, and this is the real make it or break it one.
You know, Murph, we tried to warn him in the lobby. He said that 207s were possible, and look, it's just not going to happen for him. He looked like he was already a 10th down coming in at the end of sector 1 there, so he's got a lot of work to do to break that 207 mark, but he just was so pleased about breaking in the lobby.
I wonder whether or not perhaps there's been a bit of an oversight from Blankfile, maybe practicing within the is it a suggested date or something like that? Remember, folks, that we operate on the current date, so these drivers are currently racing on the 13th of December. This qualification session will have begun at 12 o'clock midday. The race will progress at 1 o'clock in the afternoon for the 13th of December. So potentially, I just wonder whether or not he's been running in the springtime, maybe an autumn session, because Project Cars 2 wants to automatically default you to a workable date. And maybe the track conditions just a little bit colder and he's unable to get the car really working the way that he expected to within there. But looks as though third is going to be enough unless Snarling Bongo can upset that. We'll have a look though as Blankfile crosses the line. It is going to be a third place. Let's have a look at Snarling Bongo at the moment. Looks like he's coasting, so I think the session is done from the Dutchman.
A bit of an Elvis lip going on the front of that Mercedes there.
He has indeed, bringing a bit of attitude to it, I think.
Yeah,
he's definitely on a coast there. So let's have a look over to TGS Unbound. Looks as though the Ferrari's on for a hot one. See whether or not any improvement can be made from that 11th place from the young Dane. Doesn't look as though it's going to happen, no. So let's have a look at what will be the starting grid for round 7 here at Road America in the GT3 Championship. Fast AF Gamer gets that pole position. That is going to be a bonus point to the championship standings. However, I don't think it's going to be much of a consolation unless that can materialise into a good finish in tonight's race. Bruce Law ends up alongside Fast AF on that first row, with Blankfile falling into third place and Linga Bazinga in fourth. Snarling Bongo in fifth, with a cat guy making his first featured appearance on the third row, so a good qualification from the American there. Dr. Potford in 7th, with Immortalis falling alongside in 8th. Luke Snipes ends up dropping all the way down, unfortunately, into 9th position alongside McToasty. And then TGS Unbound in 11th, with Giacomo in 12th. An unfortunate qualification session, I think, there from Giacomo. We'll see if his race can pick up, but maybe missing out on his beloved fans. Old Smoky now in 13th, with Green Gaming in 14th, Survivor in 15th, and Ice Dexo finishing up at the back of the grid in that Porsche 911.
It does look like Ice Dude changed car halfway. It looks like he abandoned the Aston and went and got a Porsche, which is a wise choice.
Probably pretty wise, yeah. I believe as well, I've just seen a message pop in to the paddock. Looks as though Green Gaming has pulled off that classic error of pressing the X button and returning to race central here, so he's going to be out of the race. Nil points for Green Gaming. And I think that's going to definitely have upset him if he's put in a serious amount of practice time. All the rest of the drivers, though, now lined up on the grid. So let's have a little look through the driver run-up. Fast AF Gamer in the BMW M6, with Bruce Law in that SLS, is it?
SLS,
Alex?
Yeah.
It is indeed there. Making sure that I'm not making any mistakes. Blankfile in the Z4 in that Pirelli coloured number 35, with Linga Bazinga in the AMG number 124. Snarling Bongo in the number 84 AMG, and then a cat guy in the number 27 Simmons Mobile. Dr. Potford in the number 31 Ferrari, with Immortalis alongside in the 48 Ferrari. Luke Snipes in the number 20, I believe it is, Porsche 911. McToasty in the 59 McLaren. The TGS Unbound in a Amara blue Ferrari, with TTV Giacomo in the number 2 Audi R8. Old Smoky making it up in the number 14 Porsche 911. Survivor in the 75 Project Cars 2 liveried AMG. And then Ice Dexo bumping up one position after the absence of Green Gaming in that Porsche. 30 seconds remaining, and then we're going to get this race underway. Please let me know your predictions. Let me know whereabouts you're watching this in the world. And I can already see here we've got Tyjo recommending that the M6 is going to dominate, and rooting for Fast AF throughout this one.
And I do actually fancy Bruce into turn 1 on all this. Second place would give him the inside run on both turn 1 and turn 2, so Fast AF is going to have to get a great run to hang on to it.
Let's have a look how it comes, because here come the lights. And away at Road America, pretty good start from both guys at the front, but the M6 looks as though he's got the drag there on that SLS. SLS making it back up. A great camera angle here as they come flying through. All drivers away pretty safely. You can just see a little bit of movement there, and Bruce Law has taken that first position away from Fast AF Gamer into turn 1. Rest of the drivers looking to formulate themselves up around into the back. Looks as though all cars are through pretty cleanly though. So it's Bruce Law leading to Fast AF Gamer, Blankfile in 3rd place, Linga Bazinga in 4th, and Snarling Bongo in 5th. iMotorsports chasing him down in that Ferrari. See there, little bits of train going on, and a little bit of a movement there from Linga Bazinga, moving up the inside, I believe, of Blankfile. Looks as though he's it's cost him though, as that's allowed Snarling Bongo to come and take 4th place. They're going to have to drag it up into turn 5 and through, and it looks as though Linga's taken that position back, but Blankfile has since moved up into 2nd place ahead of Fast AF. So Fast AF, as we see, Linga Bazinga getting very, very wide indeed, losing the rear end, colliding with that ball, and that's going to be the first pit stop of the day, I believe, when we come across the start-finish line. Looks as though he's gotten back out. In fact, no, definitely not. He falls down into 12th, 13th. I think that's going to be 15th position, and limping that car back to the pits.
I did see in the background, kind of the tabletop, it looked like TTV and McToasty had a little spin together, whether it was a little bit of contact or both just losing it together, having a bit of a sympathy spin, but they've gone around as well, so hopefully not too much damage there. They can still recover that deficit if they keep it clean for the rest of the race.
Watching on board at the moment with a cat guide, that's Dr. Potford ahead with Luke Snipes, Snarling Bongo. I've just seen plenty of action going on between these two. It looks as though Luke Snipes really putting the pressure on Snarling Bongo. We see a cat guy there getting a huge run out. Luke Snipes though getting a little bit leery.
This is what I was saying in qualifying. Cat guy knows this track backwards, so I expect as this race progresses and goes on, we're going to see him pick up these sorts of places where people are still sort of finding their feet.
Moved his way up into 7th place now, so the American on his 2nd race now looking pretty tidy, and he's currently putting heaps of pressure there on Dr. Potford's Ferrari. Have to wait and see how that progresses. Immortalis has moved up into 4th position as well. He's being chased by Snarling Bongo at the moment, which is the AMG that you can see just in the rear. Fast AF Gamer just ahead as Linga Bazinga now goes into the pits as we expected. So that bumps TTV Giacomo up into 13th, and it's soon to put Ice Dexo up as well. But Ice Dexo also goes into the pits, so potentially getting a little bit wrapped up in a battle of his own.
He's got to give his Aston.
Yeah.
Changed his mind.
Maybe the Porsche wasn't the best of choices and he's returned back to the Aston, but great move there from Snarling. Textbook really up the inside. Is he going to be able to make it stick though? I think he is. Just right up the inside of Immortalis, and picked his pocket really, going into turn 6, just under the braking of turn 6. But Immortalis is fighting back hard now as they come up to the carousel. Let's continue to watch them around this. Let's see if the Ferrari's maybe a little bit better poised. Doesn't really look it. You can see the gap there from the AMG pulling away, and that Mercedes-Benz powertrain just really having the extra edge over as Immortalis completely loses it. It's almost as though he forgot that there was a corner there.
We didn't play for that bit, mate.
Yeah, there's definitely a right-hander kink there, but he did quite well to save it, to be fair. I was expecting all sorts of blood, guts and bent metal coming up from that, but he did pretty well. Small corrections paid off there for the guy from Newcastle. Let's have a look over to the battle. Look at this between Bruce Law and Blankfile at the moment. Less than half a second in it. Blankfile eager to get past Bruce Law, and you can see those lap times coming right down now. 209 set by Bruce Law, 208.657 by Blankfile last time around. Fast AF Gamer does look to just be struggling for pace. Maybe that weightier BMW M6, when it's laden with fuel, just maybe upsetting. I know that I struggle sometimes within the GT1s if I run it in a qualification trim without much fuel. As soon as I load it up for a 45-minute race, it becomes a completely different animal. Your braking lines are all over the place, your turning speed and the sort of stability through turning has completely changed, and I wonder if that's maybe just unsettled him ever so slightly inside the M6.
Definitely a possibility. I know when I qualify, I don't know if a few of the other guys do it, near the end of the session I'll fill the car up to race trim and just do a couple of laps just to get a feel for it, so you're sort of the last time you drove the car, it was as it's going to be in the race, and I think that just stops these sort of being caught out by any nasty surprises coming into the the first couple opening laps. So yeah, you're probably right. Mia just sort of sitting still. Logging laps is still a long way to go, and she doesn't want to fall too far back from Blankfile and Bruce, because those guys aren't slouches, and it's going to be a difficult deficit to make back up. But
she's still in touching distance at the moment, just over 2 seconds, and I think with the pace that M6 has got, I wonder whether or not there's maybe just a little bit of tactical play as well, because we know that she's had to push pretty hard through a lot of the races, maybe pushing beyond the limits of the tyres, and I wonder if maybe she's lost out on those positions, maybe sat back and thought, you know what, I'm going to play this one for the long game. I've got 30, but it would have been about 42 minutes worth of racing to go. Let's make sure that I balance these tyres out and then I can push hard once the car's lightened up its load a little bit, shed a bit of that fuel weight, and when perhaps some of the other drivers start to struggle with it. I've jumped over to Old Smoky because there was actually a great battle going on ahead between Dr. Potford and Luke Snipes, and Luke Snipes just getting a little bit wide there. It seems that allows Dr. Potford to move on up into 7th position, and this might allow Old Smoky to perhaps challenge the fellow Porsche 911 there of Luke Snipes very, very shortly. But meanwhile, the battle continues on between Bruce Law and Blankfile. Bruce Law kicking up some dirt there, and maybe just running ever so slightly wide, it seems, and potentially opening the door for the Belgian. It just looks as though Mercedes just has the legs on the Z4 throughout some of these longer straights compared to what we've seen on maybe some of the shorter tracks throughout this America Tour. And I wonder if this is more a Mercedes track, but their famous last words, I think.
Just while we're talking, Murphy, it looks like Snarling has fallen back, losing out to Immortalis and Cat. I don't know whether that's been overtaken fairly or whether he's made a mistake there and dropped down. It looks like Dr. Potford has gone back with him, so a lot
I wonder with that sort of deficit
tussling going on.
It's a mistake. Let's have a look over to Snarling Bongo.
Cameraman's had a day off.
Yeah. So, yeah, no damage to the car, so it could have just been a bit of a spin and a wobble. Meanwhile, it looks as though we've got this battle continuing on between Luke Snipes, Old Smoky, and now it looks as though McToasty's getting involved in it. An Old Smoky McToasty sandwich going on soon for Luke Snipes. Sounds pretty delicious, doesn't it? I'd be up for one of them.
That should be on the menu, yeah.
Luke Snipes, he's had a couple of big wobbles, and there we see Old Smoky also getting involved in one. That's probably going to allow McToasty on through. And it is indeed. McToasty also kicking up a bit of dirt there in the McLaren.
Does that make it a toasty old sandwich now?
Yeah, it's a dusty sandwich.
Dusty sandwich.
It's an old dusty sandwich. But yeah, McToasty now works his way up into 9th position, still chasing down Luke Snipes. Meanwhile, that battle is still going on at the front between Bruce Law, Blankfile, with Fast AF Gamer now slipping 3.4 seconds behind these two drivers. Immortalis, we've got to look almost 7 seconds back to see Immortalis in 4th place, and then a Cat Guy not too far at all behind Immortalis at the moment. Snarling Bongo has a potential mistake, has lost out on a few seconds, but it looks as though the grid is pretty evenly spaced now as to those drivers that have made mistakes and those drivers that haven't. Ice Dexo currently struggling. I wonder if that's been a pit ban. I know that he's already made a pit stop, but maybe he's due for another one. I wonder if there's been a mistake since that pit stop, or whether or not the first one just punished him so much in that Porsche.
Well, we didn't see the damage that he had, but this is also a long pit lane. It's not something you want to be driving into if you can avoid it. So probably a combination of both. I think it's a one stop, but a big stop.
It's also worth noting that it's a long way to the pit lane as well. Should you make a mistake in the first couple of corners, you've got to try and take it round, and that can cost you heaps of time. But Bruce Law has had an absolute blinding sector there. Been able to build up a fair bit, and as we come through these twisty sort of, they're almost like minor S's, looks as though the Z4 can just maintain that speed a little bit more calmly than the AMG. Than the SLS of Bruce Law. Builds that time right back up, and it's going to be an interesting cat and mouse, this one.
And this will be personal. It's worth noting that to everyone. These guys are very good friends, raced over in the Curb Clippers community, so there'll be no love lost between this, but it's great to watch.
Let's not forget these two are first in place, and it's not out of reach yet for Bruce Law. Whilst Blankfeld does have the advantage, it can still be achieved, and it just takes a hiccup from either of the drivers to really give the advantage to the other one. Now beginning lap 6 though, so no mistakes being made any large mistakes being made just yet.
We see Survivor dive into the pit as well, so that's either going to be for well, it will be for damage. You wouldn't be pitting for fuel or tyres on a track like this, so keep an eye on him, see where he pops out. He could end up around with ice.
You'd certainly expect tyres to be okay. I didn't take any note of track temperatures, but they're not going to be too high here at Road America. It is winter, obviously, all across America, and here in Plymouth, it's sort of middle America, I believe, Wisconsin. I'm just bringing it up on my map now just to check, make sure that I'm not upsetting our current America crowd, but it's not going to be toasty here. We're going to expect pretty low temperature conditions. Not by middle America, actually, just brought that up on my map. It's actually quite high north, so the track temperatures are going to be pretty low, as we see a mistake there from Bruce Law, just opening up the possibility for blank file. He's going to want to get defensive as much as possible, because he knows from previous races that trying to regain that position from the Belgian is pretty tough indeed. Looks as though he's got that job done though, without too much of an aggressive shutting of the door. Have a little look back to a battle that's now built up in pressure with Immortalis and a Cat Guy now. Cat Guy in the green AMG, Immortalis in that number 48. Floors FF Corsa Ferrari. They're just about to begin lap 7, it seems.
And that Mercedes from Cat Guy looks just so much more calm and relaxed going through the corners. I wonder whether he's just sort of sitting tight, playing it cool for the minute.
Again, we're what now? A sort of almost a third through this race. I think he probably knows that a podium is looking out of reach, just based upon the lap times that they're able to get currently. The top 3 drivers lapping over a second or almost a second quicker than a Cat Guy. But I think maybe just trying to make sure that he keeps himself settled for this 4th position. Maybe he's watched some of the races and he knows that Immortalis is prone to make that odd slip up, and looks as though it's been a slowdown penalty for Immortalis, and that allows Cat Guy through with ease. Whether or not he's going to hold it through this turn 6. Up over the tabletop, hard into the brakes, chucking it in left on a blind apex, and it looks as though that Mercedes is now just able to pull away quite calmly into the carousel section.
It he's getting such a better run on the exit of them corners, and that is not a happy Porsche.
Ooh, and a very, I'd say inventive line it wasn't. It's just an uncontrollable line as that Porsche now heads right back into the pits of Ice Dexo. Not having a good debut here in his first GT3 and I think his first Flux Motorsport race, but improvements are only the way forward from this one. And Luke Toasty also battling with Luke Snipes as he has been through quite a lot of this. He's coming in quite comfortably on his debut here, looking to add pressures to that Porsche, and we see Luke Snipes there picking up plenty of dirt that's going to mess with his tyres for the next couple of corners, especially through this high-speed section of Road America.
We've seen a few guys get off onto the dirt there, and I wonder whether they're just trying to carry more speed through the kink than they're probably allowed. But they don't appear to be getting slowdown penalties, or if they are, they're losing it into the braking zone of the next corner. So I want to keep an eye on this. It's a very dangerous strategy.
Oh, most definitely, yeah. In fact, let's bring up the timing boards at the moment. Oh, look at that. Immortalis with a 20-second penalty. That is pretty heavy indeed.
That'll be for jumping the start.
Yep, that looks like a false start from Immortalis. So that's going to push him back, realistically, down into 10th position, I believe.
Ouch.
Yeah, that's going to be pretty punishing if it finishes with the split times that we currently have. Don't forget, there's 28 minutes and 50 seconds remaining inside this session, so I think the split times are going to alter quite considerably come the end of this race. But that being said, that penalty might also increase. So
that would explain why.
The penalty.
Sorry, that would explain why Cat Guy was sitting behind quite comfortably, not really sort of hassling, knowing that Immortalis has got that penalty. No need to do any sort of crazy manoeuvres.
Yeah, definitely not worth putting yourself at risk when you've got an automatic 20 seconds gain on it. See Blankfile there carrying plenty of speed. I mean, it's one of those where it's generally it's a bit of a, you've got to choose the right line. It's a small lift in the right place, isn't it, to scrub the amount of speed off. You're not touching the brakes through that high speed section. As you said, I think maybe just trying to carry a little bit too much. Don't want to compromise your line and your car position on track by touching the brakes. But it looks as though he is making up that time quite a bit. He's almost onto the bumper of Bruce Law now, Blankfile, and it looks as though he's approaching a back marker of, surprisingly, Linga Bazinga as a back marker. You would not expect that, but he got wrapped up in lap one, had a very, very heavy collision with the wall. And that's why you're seeing the Dutchman at the back of the grid, currently in 12th place here. Looks as though we've lost a number of drivers over the last couple of laps. Looks as though...
so it's like Green Gaming, Ice Dude, TTV, and one other I can't see, and
Survivor, and looks like Blankfile there takes a spin. That's going to allow Fast AF up on through as he waits for a suitable time, and it's going to be work to pull back now for Blankfile. Don't think it was caused by anything other than maybe Bruce Law just, scrubbing off a little bit of speed, and looked to be a pure racing incident, but we will be potentially reviewing that one in the stewards room. We'll have to wait and see.
I don't think we could have got a better angle of that.
Yeah, certainly going to help our footage. But I think it was just Bruce Law maybe just, correcting his line ever so slightly. And Blankfile, it seemed just not quite prepared for it and couldn't really move anywhere to get out of the way. But that has been a bit of a gift to Fast AF Gamer, and it will be interesting to see whether or not Blankfile has picked up any damage from that one. See Old Smokey now entering the pits, and that might allow Linga Bazinga to take that 11th position through. To wait and see on that one. I'll tell you what's really warming to see with Team Angie shouting along for Fast AF Gamer here. That's really nice to see. Thank you very much for that, Angie. Angie tends to watch all of our GT3 races. I think she's been present through every single one of the GT3s this season, usually shouting on the support of good friends in Blankfile and Bruce Law, but great to see the friendly, competitive nature there, and for her to be rooting on Fast AF Gamer. She understands that Fast AF Gamer's got plenty of pace. We've just seen her underperform, I think, in all of the races so far this season, and I've got to be honest, I'll remain impartial, but I do hope that we see a better performance from Mia here in the M6 today. And it's so far, knock on wood, looking good here with 25 minutes left to go.
It's definitely a more consistent drive from her today. Obviously still making the mistake early on and losing out to Bruce and Blank, but been gifted the second place, as it were, and now will be the time to try and close down Bruce. And looking at the lap times of the last lap, it looks like it could be on. 3 seconds or sort of 2.5 is not an impossible reach, so don't rule her out just yet.
Yeah, she's definitely in with a shout. There's certain points within this lap that those split times are just dropping right away. I mean, obviously it depends on the track position of the cars ahead, but you can usually gain a good idea from it, from how it recovers. We are currently on with Immortalis, and that is Snarling Bongo behind as well, only half a second behind at the moment, and Snarling Bongo looks to be pushing pretty hard. We've seen good drives from both the Dutch drivers within this championship throughout this season. Linga Bazinga and Snarling Bongo. Snarling Bongo, remember, won our special event in I'm trying to think of which month it was. Was it back in August, I believe?
It's getting on that way, yeah. End of season 1, so probably about August time.
So he also came in with an absolute bang, really. He was very new to the community back then, but put his name on the map. I think he's been overshadowed in the GT1 championship by his flatmate in Linga Bazinga. But within this championship, we saw a third place finish at Daytona from him, and then unfortunately has just been unable to sort of string the races along. Just going through the race results now, the best finish since has been a 5th at Indianapolis and a 6th last week at Willow Springs. So been underperforming really, Snarling Bongo, but looking to try and get it back on track, and might be able to challenge for 5th place here, maybe even 4th if any mistakes are to be made. Meanwhile, up front, Bruce Law is now approaching further back markers. That looks to be Old Smoky up ahead in 11th place, but you can see there in the background Fast AF Gamer is approaching. It just looks as though the Mercedes just outpowering through those straights, and this is the lesser powered SLS as well. I think if Bruce Law was in previous season's AMG, you might see that gap grow even further.
We've had a question from the stream. For Blankfile has picked up a slowdown penalty. Do we know how big it is? Is it 1 or 2 seconds?
Oh, let's have a look here. 2 seconds, yeah. So Blankfile is going to have an even tougher drive here to try and get back into that second position. Does look as though he's pushing hard on the split times. The last lap doesn't really show it with a 2 minutes 12.8, but look at the splits and how well he's able to claw it back in certain parts. Remember that both Bruce Law and Fast AF Gamer are currently on one of the fastest sections of the track, but you can just make him out there in the background in that yellow and red Pirelli Z4, and he's going to be pushing hard. He's not going to want to make it easy for Fast AF Gamer. Bruce Law is going to be very aware that any mistake is going to play right into the clutches of the two drivers behind him.
It does look like Mia is chipping away at this lead, although it's hard to get a real accurate thing as they keep bunching up and spreading back out just to the layout. But I think slowly but surely she's chipping away at it.
Looks as though she's almost, into sub 2 seconds come the end of this start-finish, but you can see the amount of drag, you can see the gains there that Bruce Law is able to get on the BMW M6. Oh, looks as though we've just lost another driver. Who was that? Just have a look through the list, not too sure. It looks as though... Who might it have been? I know that we lost Ice Dexo, we lost Survivor, we also lost
Green Gaming and Giacomo.
Green Gaming and TTV Giacomo.
Is it Survivor?
Survivor went in the previous one, not sure who we've lost this last time around, but we're now down to 11 here at Road America in 20 minutes and 25 seconds remaining here. So it's Bruce Law leading to Fast AF Gamer with Blankfile in third, a Cat Guy in fourth position with Snarling Bongo. Did get that move made on Immortalis, now in fifth place ahead of him in sixth. Dr. Popford in seventh with Luke Snipes in eighth place. We've then got McToasty in ninth, Old Smokey in 10th, and then Linga Bazinga at the back of the grid. But it looks as though he's able to make gains here on Old Smokey, and this is what would baffle me really if we've had drivers quit out of this lobby, because Linga Bazinga was miles behind quite a lot of them that have done really well to not pick up higher points than the Dutchman. But maybe it's been a disconnection. Not too sure though. We tend to see quite a few drivers dropping out if it is, so maybe have to have a word with the drivers in there. They are supposed to remain into the pit, so we'll wait and see. Check to see if they're still remaining in the lobby once this race is completed. Fast AF Gamer is now within a second of Bruce Law coming out the end of this, and let's have a look at what the lap times will be as we jump into the cockpit of Fast AF Gamer as she looks to try and chase down, but you can see Bruce Law is just able to pull away on this start-finish straight. Let's have a look what happens on this next lap as we stay on the onboard here. Blankfile as well has been able to claw back quite a bit of that gap. Looks as though he's made up around about a second in the last lap or two. Bruce Law there just getting a little puff of dirt on the rear left-hand side. Not going to affect his traction too much, I believe. You can see how much quicker the M6 seems to be throughout these corners, Alex. It's really a battle of two halves, whether or not it can make up enough through the corners to compensate for how much it's losing out for on the straights.
And this will be the section where she'll make up time. You can see under braking how much time she can make up, and it'll be on the exit of the carousel is where she'll start to lose the time again. But as we can see here, this is where she's chipping away at that lead.
It's almost as though if she's going to get the move done, it needs to be sort of before, you know, this next couple of corners. So they've got two apexes through this, and then the track really speeds up on, as you say, on the exit of the carousel, which we're just starting now.
Some mistakes from Bruce there.
Gains there, and that's one of those corrective mistakes that we mentioned through the qualification session. But look at this now as Bruce Law comes out of this corner into what is in essence a long kink straight. You do have a few little lift-offs to make sure that you can make it count, but maybe, just maybe, Mia is going to be able to get a bit of a run on Bruce Law here.
It would help if she's getting a tow as well.
At the speed, and the tow would definitely play an effect. You can see there the gains made into braking. It's going to be a real tight race in this final 17 minutes.
So brave, you know, I'm sort of wincing a little bit, going, oh, brake now, brake now, brake now.
Pressing that imaginary brake pedal. So now within 0.3 of a second on the start of the start-finish straight. We'll see what it ends up at come the end. It's probably going to be about 3, maybe 4 tenths difference compared to that, around about 0.6 of a second behind. And it looks as though it's just going to be a little bit over as we approach turn 1. Since lost another driver. Looks as though Linga Bazinga is now out of the race. It's Bruce Law leading to Fast AF Gamer. Blankfile is now within 2.4, 2.3 seconds of both of these drivers. So Blankfile really cranking that screw right up, pushing it to 11 here it seems, and breaking into the 2 minutes and 8.4s. As we bring up the timing, that is currently the fastest lap of the race that last time around from Blankfile. So the pressure is certainly being cranked up, but remember, with a 2-second penalty to be applied to the Belgium in third, it's going to have to be at least a 2-second lead come the timer countdown and a crossing the start-finish line. The Cat Guy currently in 4th place, good outing from him with Snarling Bongo in 5th, Immortalis in 6th, Dr. Potford in 7th with Luke Snipes in 8th, Then McToasty in 9th and Old Smoky rocking up the back of the pack here, but he is still looking for a pretty tasty amount of points, provided that he finishes despite being 2 minutes and 41 seconds behind the leaders here.
It's worth noting that Immortalis is going to drop, if he stays where he is anyway, to the back of that pack, so he's going to end up down in 9th, so everyone's going to gain a free position out of his penalty.
He's really treading on the line at the moment, isn't he? So he's on 20, we can see on the split times, 24.9 seconds there or thereabouts behind the leader, with McToasty 42. So he's got about 2 seconds to play with, 15 minutes remaining on the timer as well. But Bruce Law continues to reign supreme here at Road America. FastF Gamer still doing all that she can to try and get past the experienced driver from Chester.
And the more that this goes on, the easier it's going to be for Blankfire to cruise up to the back of him, and he's towing it, I think is the phrase. With only 14 minutes left to go, what we're going to see, 5-6 laps left.
I think six laps
or 7.
It's going to be,
yeah,
it's going to be pretty toasty. Pretty toasty. It is going
toast
to be
on
pretty
the
toasty.
mind now.
Yeah. Say McToasty in North, and I'm just craving a cheese and ham toasty. But yeah, it's going to be pretty close come the end of this race. We're looking at maybe 3/10 to 4/10 gained by Blankfire, it seems, over the last couple of laps. I mean, Bruce Law looked as though he pulled out a quick one that last time around, but in terms of the gains to second place by Blankfire, it's been pretty consistent over the last couple of laps, and FastF Gamer is potentially in a little bit of trouble. She's gonna have 2 seconds to play with once Blankfire crosses over, but
you
maybe
said it.
I mentioned the name.
You said it.
Doesn't look as though it's hurt her too badly. Looks as though she's got back on track quite safely. Whether or not the tyres are going to be affected, we're yet to find out. We'll wait and see over the next couple of corners, but doesn't look as though there's much damage completed except for that gap to Blankfire, now shortened to within 0.5 of a second, almost half a second, just shy of it.
Well, this is it. It's BMW power on BMW power, so who has it?
I think we're on naturally aspirated versus twin turbo in the M6 here. No dab of brakes there. I wouldn't expect that. Maybe, I mean, as I've mentioned a few times throughout this series, I'm not too au fait with the GT3s, but wouldn't expect the dab of brakes to be required.
I think
wonder
that's
if it's a
flash
flash
of
of
the lights.
light.
Yeah.
It looks as though it is. Thought it was a little bit uncommon. Maybe just suggesting there that there's a potential slowdown, or maybe just inviting it through. But it looks as though Blankfire's going to have a look up the inside through this one. It's going to be a bit brave into the brakes. And it looked as though FastF Gamer caught a bit of grass, got a little bit squirrely. And now that 2 second deficit is going to play into it. Let's bring up the timing boards and see whether or not it's changed. Nope, still remains 2 seconds at the moment worth of penalty for Blankfire. We can see there FastF Gamer immediately 0.4 of a second behind, so 1.6 seconds needs to be gained in order for Blankfire to retain that second place. Jump back down the grid, let's have a look at this. Building up now between Cat Guy and Snarling Bongo. Snarling Bongo's been a bit of a silent assassin through this, and he's been working his way up. He picked off Immortalis a few laps ago, and now he's got Cat Guy to play along with. Both of them in the same car here despite the different liveries, so it's going to be interesting who can get the better run through this one. We're going to see Cat Guy's track knowledge play through. We're going to see the Dutchman's, what has been proven blistering speed, reign dominant.
I've just had a brainwave, Murphy. It was TGS is the guy who dropped out last.
It was indeed, yeah, it was.
In the sea of names.
Before Linga Bazinga, yeah, I think it was.
Snarling really piling on the pressure here to Cat Guy. Over the last couple of laps, Cat Guy's had a sort of comfortable 2 second gap to Immortalis and Snarling, so either a little mistake made or Snarling sort of decided now's the time to put the pressure on Well, we're probably looking at sort of 4 or 5 laps left to go. Time is starting to run out, so people looking to get moves done are going to want to get them done now. That's it.
Yeah, you can see eMotorsports there in the background, not too out of reach as these two get their attack on. Bit of cat and mouse going on. That's going to play right into eMotorsports' game. And you can see there, Snarling Bongo starting to maybe make his presence known a little bit too impatiently over the back of Cat Guy. He's really pushing pretty hard. Whether or not he's trying to unnerve him or whether or not he's going to lose his patience, and you might see a bit of a lunge going on here as we see Old Smokey entering the pits, I think for the second time here, unable to get a good grasp of this Road America circuit in that Porsche 911, it seems.
And Cat Guy's doing the right thing here, just keeping nice and calm, trying not to make any mistakes and making Snarling work for it, which is the only way to deal with it, really.
So it's going to go down into the braking of turn 1. Snarling Bongo up the inside in the grey car. Cat Guy in the green livery, and it looks as though Snarling Bongo is going to get this one done, provided he can stop in time. They go too wide, and really brave driving from both drivers there, putting a lot of trust in one another. Snarling Bongo gets the move done though, and just had the advantage of line, it seems, able to make the braking work. And now a Cat Guy, he's going to fall under pressure from eMotorsports. Let's have a look at what's going on up front. So Bruce Law continues to reign ahead of Blankfile in first position. Blankfile 1.4 seconds back. He's only got half a second's worth of lead or so to Fast AF Gamer, it seems. And let's jump into the onboard footage of Fast AF Gamer there. Looks as though maybe had to make a bit of a counter correction through the carousel, lost out on around about half a second, and that might prove even further come the end of this sector.
Especially this late in the game, the tyres are going to be crying for a break, especially towards the exit of that carousel. It's such a high-speed corner that you load it all up onto that front left. It looks like due to tyre wear, maybe the temperatures, I haven't got the graphic up in front of me, is maybe getting a little bit outside of the recommended usage.
I mean, if I can trust the Motec of Fast AF Gamer's screen at the moment, it looks as though they're sat around 80 degrees. I'm not sure how accurate that is, because all 4 tyres are 80 degrees, which seems a little bit uncommon.
She is also in neutral.
She is also in neutral, yeah, so maybe that says it. You know what is interesting though, Alex? Look at the fuel level, 56.2 litres, and I know that one is currently counting down as we see it moving down, so looks as though Mia is pretty overfueled for this race, and that might have explained some of the issues that she had very early on in the race here. Be interesting to speak to her into Parc Fermé, see whether or not she did check those fuel levels coming in, or whether or not it was just a race setup.
Cheeky, I was going to say, what's Bruce running? Let's
let's have a little nosy, see whether or not we can see. No, looks as though
46.5. It's in the bottom left there.
Sight on my screen, so you can see it. Yeah, so still looks to be pretty heavily fueled. It looks as though they're using, maybe you can see that graphic as well, Alex, but it looks as though they're using around about 4 to maybe even 5 litres a lap.
I've got 2. It says fuel lap 16.36, but fuel average 4.98, which seem vastly different numbers. So I think you're going to be about right, Murph.
Maybe it's maybe a little bit of inaccuracy from the graphics. It's not unheard of, really, is it, in this game? We've seen headless marshals, we've seen all sorts going on, but you've just seen Fast AF Gamer there pulling off some weird G-force turning, but I think that was just lag related. But Fast AF now looks as though she's within a second of Blankfire. She's going to need to make sure she keeps a hold of that split time if she's going to take second place away from the Belgian. However, it does look as though
definitely a tag team in it. Swap places and let Blankfire have a crack at Bruce, who's been mighty always, it has to be said. Fending off both of these drivers is no easy feat.
I don't think I've seen any mistake other than maybe just getting a rear rear tyre onto the dirt a little bit as well. It's been really consistent, and I think just playing into the strengths of Bruce Law, really, this sort of track. I know he's sort of in the slightly maybe better suited car. I don't know.
I think it's the other way.
Do you think the Z4's maybe the better option through this?
He was saying that the AMG. He was saying that the SLS hasn't been giving him the power that he thought he was going to receive, and that it was feeling sort of a little bit sluggish during his practice laps. But obviously, sluggish to Bruce is actually quite quick, it turns out.
I'd be very happy with some of these. Oh, and a mistake there, just into turn 6. Oh, and that's going to really put on the pressure. Remember, he's got 2 seconds of advantage. It's now been reduced to about 0.8 of a second. But now, as we see a big mistake there from Fast AF Gamer, absolutely boots Bruce Law out of it. Don't know what's going on, because it seems as though Fast AF Gamer isn't slowing down. She's just kept on driving, which seems really uncharacteristic. And Bruce Law now, he's going to be fuming over that. I know I feel almost, I feel angry myself, Alex. I'm not going to lie. Such late into the race as well, and it's been such a clean one.
We the stewards are definitely going to be hearing about that one. Well, as soon as the race is over, and probably for the rest of the week. Very out of character for Mia to make a mistake like that, and even more uncharacteristic for her to carry on driving. So we'll have to wait and see. I think, Angie, you're right. It could be a little bit of lag playing in there, but that looked nasty.
We have seen Fast AF jumping about ever so slightly, and it's got to have been lag related. But either way, it's not going to be a happy camper inside that bright red SLS at the moment. 13 seconds back. Looks as though Fast AF Gamer just thought, you know what, sod it. Maybe if I can take Bruce out of this and get within 2 seconds of blank file, I'm going to take a victory here. And
well, Fast AF has actually got a penalty too.
Have we seen that pop up? Oh yeah, I didn't even notice that. Yep.
So blank file now 4 seconds.
Blank file's also got 4 seconds, so it balances itself out. 2 seconds is still a magic number, but yeah. By the way, I am joking, ladies and gents. It won't have been a case of Fast AF Gamer just punting Bruce Law. She is much better than that, that's for sure. But blank file now is looking the favourite for this race after sitting back in 3rd position for a large part of it. Now, as we go into lap 20, 2 minutes and 40 seconds remaining on this one, and just coming up to the halfway sort of point of this, so it looks as though there's going to be one more lap to go after this one. But blank fire with a 2-second disadvantage to Fast AF Gamer. So currently around about 0.8 of a second in the lead here to take yet another victory in the Flux Motorsport GT3 Championship. Just bringing up the statistics now throughout this one. Blank file so far this season before this race is at 4 first place finishes, 1 second, and then 4 podiums with 3 pole positions. So podium every single time. In fact, at the top of the podium 4 times. Podium 5 out of the races. In fact, I think it's actually been 6, hasn't it? I think my stats are currently lying to me. Let me just bring up the other one. I don't think we've seen blank file. Oh no, sorry, I beg your pardon.
I think it was Daytona.
Place at Daytona.
That's the one.
Yeah. But,
which definitely was not a Z4 track.
No.
We did that week 1, and we sort of thought, the Z4 probably wouldn't do too well for the rest of the American Tour. We get to these power tracks, but it turns out we were very wrong. I think it's just the banking it didn't like. Maybe, I don't know.
I think it's more perhaps top end. I think with the turbos of most of the field out there, maybe just able to take advantage through those long straights, whereas I'm pretty sure that that Z4 is a naturally aspirated V8. think as well, actually, maybe I could be wrong, ladies and gents, but I wonder if Bruce Law's SLS is also naturally aspirated. Bruce Law did actually take the victory at Daytona though, so maybe he's just shat all over my theory for Daytona. But either way, the Z4 really bloody struggled, and I think Blankfile's confidence was also knocked from that one, but he's since gained it in leaps and bounds, and quite rightfully so, as he's comes around this King Straight now for the final time. I think with 12 seconds on the clock, this is going to be the final lap of the race. It looks as though it's going to be a victory despite the penalty that has been added on. Still remains at 4 seconds compared to Fast AF Gamer's 2 seconds. As we come around the final corners for the final time, this is going to conclude round 7 here of the Flux Motorsport GT3 Championship, and going to make it very, very interesting as we go into the final race. But Blankfile secures that victory. It's going to be around about 1.7 seconds lead to Fast AF Gamer, who now crosses the line in second place. Bruce Law ends up keeping on to third, but look at that, 14.
Sorry Murphy, it looks like Immortalis is charging Cat Guy down in the final things. The sector times there came right down.
Let's not forget, Immortalis actually is he's going to be hit with a 20-second penalty. Let's see where that leads him at the moment. Looks as though it's going to be just behind McToasty, so it's going to be enough to secure 8th position. Luke Snipes is going to lose out on any potential gains from that penalty. I think a couple of pit stops has cost him. Snellingbongo has since secured 4th position, but Cat Guy comes across the line for 5th. Immortalis crosses in 6th place, but watch as his position drops down as Dr. Potford and McToasty cross the line. Dr. Potford might just lose out on the advantage that he had coming into the final race, may just come under increased pressure on whether or not he's going to get that top 3 finish of the championship and therefore be able to secure his seat into next season. You can see now Immortalis drops down to 8th place. Luke Snipes is just coming up to the final couple of corners here. Or is he? He's not actually, he's in the midsection, isn't he? Beg your pardon. Oh no, it was final couple of corners. Looks as though he actually had someone to race with Old Smokey as well. Old Smokey is a couple of laps back, but at least gave him a bit of company out on track. So that concludes round 7 here at Road America. Blankfile securing that victory after a really controversial bit of action between Fast AF Gamer and Bruce Law in the final couple of laps. Bruce Law though does cross the line in 3rd place with Snarlingbongo in 4th and Cat Guy in 5th. Dr. Potford does enough for 6th place ahead of McToasty, and Immortalis hit with a false start penalty that puts him down to 8th position. Luke Snipes finishes ahead of Old Smokey, who were our final 2 drivers to cross the line. The rest of the field actually retired on that one. So what an action-packed bit of action here in the GT3s, mate. It's been that way for the last few weeks, really, non-stop talking, because there's been non-stop things going on. But I hope you enjoyed that one.
Oh, well, what a race. And as you said, it's been like this all season long. Throughout the full 45 minutes, there's always been something going on. And next week at Watkins Glen is going to be no different. I'm really looking forward to that. It's
one of my favourite tracks in the GT3 calendar. I think it's going to be really interesting indeed, and I'm certainly looking forward to it. Hope you're looking forward to it too. Don't forget, you can tune into that one either by hitting the link as ever for our YouTube channel live from 8 o'clock UK time, or make it even easier for yourself. Make sure your notifications are turned on and hit that subscribe button. We'd also appreciate any comments that you leave to us through the week, and any clicks of that like button. If you want to know a little bit more about what we've got going on, then be sure to follow our social media channels, but as well, don't forget that website, which is www.fluxmotorsport.com. if you want to get involved in with the action, or maybe you want to try and help out as a volunteer here within the staff team of Flux Motorsport, or perhaps even you enjoy the content that we put out there and you'd like to donate to the cause, All of the money does get pumped back into the community here at Flux Motorsport to bring our drivers bigger and better services as we look ahead. I'd like to thank you, Alex, for joining us. I look forward to seeing you around Bathurst Mount Panorama on Tuesday.
Oh, thanks for having me, mate. And I cannot contain my excitement for that combination. Touring cars and Bathurst is nearly a holy trinity. I'm just praying that it doesn't rain.
Keep your eye out for the pink Atrol Vision number 9 car. It's hopefully going to be involved in some action and not going to run away with it. But yep, you can tune in to that one live from me from 8 o'clock UK time here on the Flux Motorsport channel. Other than that, I've been your host for the evening. I hope you have a great week ahead, and don't forget, this is coming into our final week here in 2020 at Flux Motorsport, so be sure to catch up on all of the action. If you've yet to see any of the races, they are being put into their YouTube playlists for you to find. And other than that, I'll see you again on Tuesday. Stay safe, everybody, and have a good week ahead. Thank you.